Welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and your resource for self-care and mindfulness. And today we have with us Cara Houser. Houser. I'm going to apologize for butchering that name. Cara Houser. So she is the incredible author of the best-selling guidebook, Burned Out to Lit Up, Ditch the Grind and Reclaim Your Life. And it has the answers you've been seeking. With 20 years of experience in the high-pressure real estate development industry, Cara knows firsthand the toll that burnout can take on your mind, your body, and your soul. Cara, thank you very much for joining us today, and I apologize for butchering your last name.
You know, it's a tricky one. Don't worry at all, Laura. I'm so pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you share with our audience your personal journey of recovering from burnout and how it transformed your life?
Yes. So burnout happened to me like it happens to a lot of people, super gradually. You think, I'm fine, just add one more stress to the list. I can manage it. I'm just going to cut out one more thing that I think of as frivolous or extra, which for women is often the stuff that we need to take care of ourselves, right? Basic stuff, exercise, nutrition, time with friends, sleep. It all just kind of gets chopped off the list as we seek to be everything to everyone except ourselves. And after years of doing this, basically we just get worn down. Our resilience wanes and we start to develop health challenges, all kinds of other problems. And I did the grind for a long, long time in my field, my former field of housing development. And about 15 years in, I just hit a wall. My kids were 7, 9, and 9 at the time. And I was trying to do all the things, all the work and all the domestic realm that women are expected to do. And it actually took like a family emergency to sort of snap me out of it and to make me aware of how really unsustainable the habits that I'd built were, and how incredibly ridiculously high my stress set point was, and the fact that it really was not working for me anymore.
Yeah, it's incredible of how we keep accepting things as normal, or this is my new normal and this is just the way it is. And whether it's a family emergency or trauma, you really kind of look back at it and say, it's really kind of sad that it took something that extreme to say, hey, something's really wrong here.
Absolutely. Although as I talk to people, part of what I'm trying to accomplish with my book is to catch folks before they get there so that their journey out won't be quite so long and hard. But, sometimes we just have to hit that point in order to come to that clarity and commitment to actually make a change, to really understand that what we're doing isn't working anymore. Right. When the pain of staying in the same place is worse than the pain of changing all of a sudden, then that fear of change becomes a necessity to deal with.
Yeah. And you mentioned change, and do you think a lot of people fear that because they fear change or they're not comfortable with change?
It is scary. That's like the basic human fear. We want things to stay the same. We want nothing to change in our relationships. We want our jobs to be stable. We do want to be able to keep a roof over our heads. These are basic survival things that we want and need. And it can, especially as we become more and more burned out, our resilience to manage change actually gets less and less. And unfortunately, that's the time that we need to change the most, but we have the least amount of inner tools and energy to even think about what that might look like. And I know when my burnout was so bad, I had to leave work for a little while and get myself healed inside and out. It was a really scary time because I didn't know what I was going to do next, but it was bad enough to where I had to make a plan and figure it out. And so that's what this book, it's meant to meet people there at that point where you just don't have even 5 minutes to just even start Googling, how do I heal from burnout? What would be step one, right? It takes so much energy to just try to make a plan, figure out it's a very step-by-step guided process and is meant to be super accessible and distilled. It's not going on and on and on, boring you to death. That's the goal.
Yeah. And I love the title of it, burned out to lit up, because it kind of tells you what you can get from the change and, ditching the grind and reclaiming your life. Because I always called it a rat race. I think we get stuck in a rat race and or the grind. But how does the book offer practical guidance for individuals seeking to reclaim their lives from burnout?
Well, it starts all the way at the beginning, which is getting really clear on where are we? How are we feeling? Let's take a moment to get reacquainted with what's going on with us. And the whole point of the whole thing is to take us on a few different journeys. We go from burned out to lit up. We go from chaos to clarity. We go from self-neglect all the way through self-care to magic of self-possession. Self-care is just something we need to do along the way. It's not something, and the reason why I don't see that as the end-all be-all of life is because it's been completely commodified. This hustle culture, rat race, the grind, whatever, it beats us to a pulp and then sells our health back to us. We're too tired. Now we don't have any money or energy to do it. It's ridiculous. And so if you think about self-care as just incorporating the necessary things in your life that you need to survive and thrive, basic good taking care and caring about yourself and your time and your health, then yes, I'm all for it. And then we go through that to self-possession. And self-possession is when we're so in tune with ourselves, what matters to us, our values, our worth. When we're so confident and clear on that, it becomes so much easier just to make all kinds of decisions about how we're going to spend our time, our money, our energy, who it's with, what it's on. So those are the passages we go through, and we do it in a step-by-step way. So we start from understanding that we have way too much stuff to do. So it doesn't start with, hey folks, I know you already have zero time, so here's a bunch of crap to add to your to-do list. That's not what it's about.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's how people look at it. Yeah,
people are like, ugh, God, another book about cold showers and all this other stuff. And that's really not what it's about. It's like, okay, we know where we're at. So the first, the book is kind of in the chapters are collected in these three buckets. The first one is making space. There's a few chapters on that. We make space in our physical space, our mental space, set boundaries, make space in our schedules. The second bucket is we fill back in with things that actually serve us and our purpose, habits, mindsets, vision, practices. And then the final section of the book is about sustaining those gains. So making space, rebuilding, and sustaining. And we talk about specifically resilience and joy as components in sustaining that, so that the gains that we've just spent all this time installing into our lives actually become lifelong companions to us. And it's not just this fun thing that I tried once and now I'm back to the burning hell of burnout. Like, I've actually made a transformation that I can carry along with me into hopefully the rest of my life, right? Because it's not like the stressors are never just going to go away. We all have things that happen in life that is part of being human. And when those things happen, we're just going to be so much more equipped with that strong foundation to be able to manage them and to be able to protect the things in our schedules that we need, that we know protect us if we actually do them regularly.
Yeah. Because like you said, there's always going to be stressors that are going to pop up. It's how we've learned to cope or deal with it, or like you said, being equipped so we're not knocked back on our butt for, nearly as long. It might knock you back for a second or two, but generally if you're equipped, you can come back quicker.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in your 20-year career in the real estate development industry that contributed to your burnout?
So my career in that industry is kind of broken into a couple of phases. The first 15 years I worked as an employee, and it's just it's a meat grinder. It's an always on business, especially once the wonders of smartphones came around, it was like, oh yay, now we can be available 24/7. And at first it seemed like a cool idea because we could get a little work done later and maybe have flexibility, but the workplace wasn't giving the flexibility during the day. It was only expecting the flexibility at night.
Right.
And so, Yeah, I tried to play that game for a little while with folks in my office that didn't have outside of the office responsibilities, and apparently no hobbies or interests or anything either. And it just didn't work. I mean, it was an absolute disaster, and didn't take all that long for me to realize that wasn't going to fly. And like I said, I have other things that, other responsibilities in my life, but ideally most people do. They at least have a few people they like to see, an instrument they like to play, whatever. These are all important ingredients of being a whole person. And by the way, being a way better employee. So I got super burned out, like a lot of people did, and spent a couple of years restoring myself and learning a lot of the lessons that I share now. And then I actually got back into it, but as a consultant. So I initially had done some interviewing, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get back into this. And I saw that they were all the same. They all expected you this 24/7, and it had nothing to do with what you produce, because my production was always very efficient and good and on time. It was just this notion about time wasting. And I just thought, oh God, I don't have time for this. And so I started my own consultancy, and I started to work with clients, cool clients, projects that I was into, and I was able to set up parameters around the work and expectations that were just a lot healthier. And what I proved to myself that I already knew was true was that not only is it possible to do good work without grinding yourself like a maniac 24 hours a day, you do way better. You do way better work. You're rested. You're a whole person. You can communicate. You're not snapping at people. You can think clearly. You can be creative. You can do all those things that when you're in a leadership role or any role, you need to have if you're going to do good quality work. I mean, zombies don't do good work. And so that's, and I got paid way better for working way less hours. I was like, oh my God, this is the promised
What a concept.
land,
Yeah.
So yeah. I did that for 5 more years, and I loved it actually. But then at the end, I got to the 20-year point a couple of years ago and was like, I think I'm just ready to do something else. And I made the shift to what I'm doing now, which is as a career coach, an empowerment coach and career strategist, and the author of this book. And frankly, I've always loved mentoring people, leadership, training, and just, sharing lessons learned and best practices. And I thought, well, I've got a few lessons in my life I feel like could actually be useful to other people that were coming out as I was chatting with people. And I thought, well, okay, I can actually offer these in a more formal way. And that is what spurred the shift to what I'm doing now.
Yeah. You mentioned the family emergency. Would you say that was your wake-up call or the pivotal moment, or was there something else when you realized you really needed to make the change to prioritize your well-being?
I had there were a handful of, I call it signs, everywhere the signs in the book, because there were other things looking back that I was like, good Lord. I mean, that was actually
the other guy, here's your sign.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, like that was actually kind of hello. Right. But I was so blinders on, just getting through the day, that I just couldn't see those. And yes, so it did take this emergency it was a health emergency with my son that caused me to basically just completely melt down and freak out, to the point where I was so beat down by this situation that I had to, I was sitting with some friends, and I was sitting there at their house, like just crying, crazy crying. And my friend was like, you might consider a sabbatical. And I was like, sabbatical? I'm not a professor. I'm just a regular person. And she's like, seriously, you need to take a break, man.
Yeah.
This doing it all is not working for you, and it doesn't really work for anybody. And so my husband and I made a plan. It wasn't an immediate thing because, we have bills, but we made a plan to save money, cut expenses. I went down to 4 days for a little while, just kind of got myself to a point where we could do it. And, but yes, that was the beginning of just almost like a light switch shift in me, where I was like, okay, this is not going to go. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to take myself out and just be a horrible parent and family member and friend along the way, because I'm so depleted, right? We can't show up well for others when we have not taken care of ourselves. We can't give the gifts of love, listening, caring to others if we haven't learned to give those gifts to ourselves. And you just can't pour from an empty cup. I mean, basic stuff that I feel like we all know, that I feel like I knew, right? But then we just don't do it. And because we think, well, I'll just get to myself later. That's selfish to do this stuff. And one of the things I've learned, and I talk about like 50 times in the book, is that it's actually one of the more generous things you can do the most to take proper care of your heart and soul and emotions and body, because it's only then that you can actually show up well and whole and healthy and fun and happy for anyone else in your life. You literally can't do it for anyone else until you do it for yourself. And so like, it's really generous. It's like the truest win-win that I've learned.
Yeah. And who's going to listen to you if you're telling them that they should do this, but yet you're still doing,
Exactly.
you're still doing the same thing, doing as I say and not as I do is not really a thing.
And on that note, people see the disrespect that you treat yourself with, and frankly, you're training them how to treat you. You're training them that your time doesn't matter, that you just, your time, you're not worth it. And that's horrible, right? Like, we have to treat ourselves with the grace and love that we know we expect to receive, and we give. That's how we build healthy relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you had the support to help you figure that out and do it, because some people struggle because they don't have, when they don't have that kind of support, but you had your husband and stuff to support you, which is awesome. What strategies or techniques did you use during your 2-year healing process that helped you to rebuild and a life fulfilled with joy and fulfillment?
Well, I think I'll probably just focus on just very simple, like probably the one thing that moved the needle the most, because there's a lot of components to it. And if folks want to get into the details, they can. There's a lot of mindset shifts that occur. But as far as like where the rubber meets the road and what people can do now to start making some shifts, is just to take a really good hard look at how they spend their time, and look at the things that give energy and the things that take energy. And in a very simple way, once they've done this exercise, remove one of the things that takes energy that's not essential. We're going to exempt the essentials, like, you have to feed your children. Cool. But the things that are not actual essential for survival, the things that give and take energy, you take one of the things that doesn't away and you replace it either with sleep, if you need that, or one of the things that gives energy. So that's just a very simple thing. And then just being very, like I was saying a few minutes ago, protecting the things that protect your well-being ferociously, so that they can do their job and protect you. So I call these ingredients for well-being. Most of us have figured out more or less what ours are over the years, right? So maybe people like to walk in nature. Maybe they like to do kickboxing classes. Maybe they like to do yoga. Like it's whatever it is. For me, it's trail running. I like to run outside in the dirt and the trees. That's my thing.
Music, dancing, going out, feeding the critters, or playing with the dog. Those are my happy places.
Yes. So those are your ingredients for well-being, right? So those need to be on your schedule so hard and tight that they rarely get scheduled over. I'm not saying never. Sometimes there's a legit emergency. Okay, fine.
Sure.
But when that emergency is past, we go right back, and they go right back on, because that they're your ingredients for well-being. So I know I need to, eat a decent diet. I know I need to do this. Usually trail running most days is what I do to keep, my body, but also mostly my mind. It's just really, 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 really important to my brain to go and have that space and that time. And I know that because on the days that I don't do it, or if I skip it for a little while, I'm quite unpleasant. It's just like,
it's amazing how that happens.
you just know, like getting enough sleep, that whatever your ingredients are, being with certain friends. I like to play my guitar, so music is one for me too. So whatever those are, hold on to them so tight, and just know that you're actually doing not only yourself, but the whole wide world a favor by keeping yourself centered and grounded and happy. And then think about the things that actually take away. I go into I'm now calling it a morning ritual, not a morning routine, because again, people think, oh, morning routine. Ugh, she wants me to get up at 4 a.m. Horrible.
I know we always have to have labels for these things, but yeah.
But I like to think of mine as a ritual, right? I get up, and before I go on my phone and start looking, first of all, I don't look at a lot of news anymore because I've decided that that's actually ruining my mental health. So I stay reasonably informed as a human being, but I don't go down the doom scroll about how like the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, because when I do, then I show up, now I'm pissed. Now I'm suspicious. Now I'm just a horrible person, right? Like we want to be beacons of light and energy in our community. And how can we do that if we've already decided everything's horrible? We have to remember that the media is there just to sell eyeballs and focus on usually the worst things. So we have to be very, very cautious about how we spend our time and energy. So do a little breathing in the morning, think about what I appreciate, do this running. Some people, and then something for the brain, like journaling, and for the soul, prayer, a mindfulness practice. I like the Calm app. It's cool. Like there's a lot of things we can do in like a 10-minute period a day to just center ourselves a little bit. And then we've set ourselves up, if we do those kind of initial ingredients of our well-being that stack into our morning, now we're like, boom, I've already done so much stuff today. And I'm entering the day with pretty decent state of mind. I can actually be present for people and I can feel good most of the time. Look, nobody's perfect. Some days you feel like crap and need to go back to bed. Fine.
Oh yeah. I've had those, but they don't normally seem to be very productive. It's like, I should have just stayed up. It would have been better.
It depends. Like I get migraines, for example. And if it's a real nasty one, and the super nuclear medication I have for it doesn't work, I have to chill. It's my body's way of telling me, right? So you got to go with what your body's telling you to.
Got to listen to it.
you got to listen to it. And that's really the underlying thing too, right? We're listening to what our purpose is, what are our gifts? What lights us up? What brings us joy? What do we think we're put on this earth in big and small ways to do? And when we spend our time doing those things, we are of so much more use to others around us too.
Yeah. And it's a much lighter feeling than, otherwise it just kind of feels heavy and bogged down, but it's much more enjoyable when you're doing those kinds of things. I know we have a lot more to dig into, but we do need to take a quick break from a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma Master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
Hi, I'm Bobby Aldridge with BAM Metrics. There are so many programs out there that measure your swing speed, sets, reps, your BMI, your body fat, but the one thing they're not measuring that's so essential is mobility. Mobility is the key. If you're measuring your mobility, your performance will get better and you will reduce your pain. I created BAM Metrics to make it easy for people to repeat the exercises so they could do it properly at home on their own. It's simple, it's easy to do, and from a senior to a pro athlete.
So you always talk about, ditching the grind. Can you elaborate on that concept of ditching the grind and how it applies to individuals looking to break free from the burdens that are holding them back?
Yes. So the grind is not one specific thing. It's not like, oh, quit your job and move to Rome. Although that would be amazing. The book is not essentially it's not the anti-eat, pray, love, but to me, it's the more accessible version for most people who cannot or aren't willing to necessarily, for whatever reason, toss it all out and leave the country, move into a cave for 5 years. It's to meet people where they are and to help people develop what I call a sabbatical style mindset and way of being now. So if you're super burned out, you may need to take a legit break, literal sabbatical to go kind of get yourself in order and come back. You might, depending on all sorts of factors in your life, right? But the point of the book is to help us understand that it's about building sabbatical breaks, building rest, building self-care, building self-possession into our everyday lives, day by day, week by week, month by month, so that we build lives that we don't have to escape from. When you're doing the grind, you're just thinking like, oh, I'm going to have that 2 weeks in Hawaii in a little while, or I'm going to do this for 30 years, and then I'm going to retire, and right? Yeah. And so, but the problem with that, of course, is that with that amount of stress and strain, it's going to be tough to make it to that retirement. And if you do, will you be well and healthy? And at that point, will you have kept any friends? Will you have developed any of your passions? Will you even know how to live outside of the confines of the roles that you've been filling in life? Your job title. That's part of the reason why a lot of people get to retirement and actually become super depressed, because their whole identity was wrapped up in this grind, this role, this having to be busy, this having to fill every second with being productive, and this doing some stuff that sometimes is useful and sometimes not that useful in the work world. And then we get to the finish line and look at ourselves and say, well, who in the hell is this? Like, what am I even doing? Like, what do I want out of life? And then this having to start from complete scratch is actually really discombobulating. So it's about learning how to allow yourself to have this very multidimensional life now. Now, we can't do every single thing at the same time, right? You're working, right. You're caring for sick family members, parents and such. Like, okay, we have the time that we have and we have the responsibilities that we have, but we can and we must learn to view ourselves as a priority. We were put on this earth with unique gifts, and thinking about those and allowing those to shine through and using those out in the world is actually one of the most blessed things that we can do. So learning how to do that, learning how to build this sabbatical style mindset and way of being, which really just means that I can move into the life, I can create the lifestyle that I want to in a lot of different ways. It could just mean like, I like to sit by the fire, right? So we have a fireplace, and it's just it's a very simple thing I do to relax. It also helps heat the house. It's awesome. It's super, very grounding. Like it's very elemental. It's a way that I'll sit there and just look at it or read it. That's just a very simple thing that I do that I actually consider part of self-care, because it's so freaking chill for me. So different people have different things, but that's part of my sabbatical style mindset, is that I know that I can build those things in. I don't have to wait. I don't have to grind and suffer and wait. I can have a life that's worth living, all the ups and downs and hard and soft and stuff now.
Right. Yep. And your book, it actually is kind of like a guide for readers, right? Through the journey of self-care. Don't you have it as kind of a workbook, something they can work along with it?
It is. So it's suggested. And of course, people should do it however they feel like doing, because that's the whole point of the book too, is we're going to make decisions that work for us. But the way I suggest they do it is 1 chapter a week. So if you do that, it's about 10 weeks. And so there's in each chapter, there's like stories, and then there's usually some form of like research or case studies. And then there is practical information. And then at the end, there of each chapter are what I call reflection activities. And these are things that people can do to help apply the concepts to their actual lives to make it meaningful and useful for them. These are not super onerous. They're meant to be done by people who have tons of stuff to do, but it's a once a week thing. And so if you have like a beautiful journal, you can do it. I also have this free downloadable PDF on my website of all the reflection activities compiled that people can download and print out. And they can just do it right on there if that's easier. But if people just go ahead and go through the process just a little bit per week and allow themselves that space, it's like a gift to yourself of space and time for folks who are not used to gifting themselves a whole lot of grace, space, or time. And again, yes, it's the reason why those activities are like that is so that people can spend some time reflecting and applying. And then it's all very gradual. It builds, each chapter builds on the last. And then at the end, you've really gone through this whole process and ideally a transformation where you actually feel like, okay, I can do this. I feel renewed. I feel hopeful. Now, obviously, if you've got some unsustainable things in your life that you need to adjust, you might be needing to adjust those, but there is a chapter on that too, setting boundaries and making space in that way. Sometimes some of the ways that some of us get burned out is that we have a yes addiction, and we let the word should run our lives. Oh, I should do that. They're guilting me. I probably, if I was a good person, there's just a lot of things that we do to beat ourselves up and force ourselves into doing things that aren't actually necessary, but that we feel like we have to.
It's okay to say no, and no is a complete sentence.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too often, every people says no, and then they have to they feel like they have to explain. It's like, no is a complete sentence. It's okay.
Yes. And when you start going down that whole, well, it's just I need a little bit of time you don't need to justify living to people. You need to take care of yourself.
Yep. I 100% agree. Definitely agree with you. So can you maybe discuss with what you've the importance of finding the balance between work and personal life, how individuals can achieve this balance even in a high pressure careers? Because I think a lot of people have trouble finding that balance or feel like it's not possible.
Oh, it is super hard. I just want to start by saying that. And so I'm not going to magic wand you people, but what I am going to say is that, it's like so many things in life. It starts with how we frame it, especially for kind of mid-career age women. We were definitely sold this bill of goods, or we could have all this wonderful career stuff, but oops, the fine print was that you weren't getting rid of any of the domestic stuff you were doing, which was already a full-time job. So here we are feeling like bad about ourselves for failing at something which was actually never possible anyway. Who says it's possible to flawlessly, happily, and gorgeously do two full-time jobs in the space of one? It's not possible. So when we say to ourselves, okay, this is actually a con, work-life balance is a con. I call it life-work balance because it's a life we're living. Work is part of it. It's an important part of it. Hopefully we find some joy and passion and purpose in our work, but it's also important because, we have bills to pay. So it's part. And there's all these other parts of our life. We have relationships. We have our health. We have our legacy that we're trying to build. I mean, there's so much to a full and rich and delicious life. And, just that simple reordering, I think, just helps people say, oh, it's almost a little snap out of this binary, like this or this, this or this. I have, when you think work-life balance, you think like my former career and most frankly, industries. Yeah. Work is the primary. Everything. If you don't give 100+% of your energy and time, you're considered a slacker or something. And this is just nonsense, right? As we've already covered. So if we can just free ourselves from this notion and just decide rather revolutionarily that we're not going to buy into it. We're not just going to try to like apologetically shove oh, I just need a few minutes to eat lunch or, pick my kid up. Like, we have to do what we have to do in this life. And the more of us understand that it's about having a life that's worth living, a multidimensional one, the better off we're going to be. As far as specific thing, very difficult to say, right? Because we all have different careers that we're in, and we all have different demands on our time. I mean, for me, in my career, the way to create a healthier life-work balance was to do it as a consultant. But again, there's a lot of different pathways people can do based on your level of experience, what it is you do. And I guess the one thing I would say is there's always more possibilities than we think there are when we are so eyeballs deep in burnout that we can't even, we're just surviving.
You can't see a way out.
When you're just surviving, it's actually impossible to be like, wow, I could actually start like something awesome that you're doing, right? Like trying to figure out and look ahead into like something you might actually love I think it's impossible when you're in that mental state. So working through this process of reclaiming some of our imagination, ability to see possibilities, belief in ourselves, all that good stuff are just our basic foundations for health and well-being. Once we get that house in order, we're going to all of a sudden be able to have a lot better visibility into the fact that there are actually quite a few other possibilities out there for us. It's not just A or B.
No. Have you ever heard the question, are you working to live or living to work?
I have. And yes. And it's a good one.
Because I think many people, I think, spent time living to work. That's kind of what it became instead of the other way around, trying to do what you're supposed to do, make ends meet. And it's like, great, we're getting it done. But, you, like you said, the grind or whatever you want to call it, you run yourself in the ground. You're not truly happy. And it affects you. It affects your life.
Right.
It really does.
And then you're barely surviving again. And again, how are we're not doing our best work when we're in that space either.
No, not at all. So can you maybe provide the audience with like a sneak peek into some of the strategies or the tips that you share in your book? I know we shared a couple, but that can help individuals.
We did. One of the chapters that people think is really fun, and this might be a little woo for some people, but probably not your folks, because, we're talking about mindfulness, is there's a whole chapter on rebuilding your vision. And we've already done all the making space, and now we're in the rebuilding, but it's the first step. It's trying to help crack through all of those limiting beliefs and all of those things that we've assumed, oh, it's too late. Here I am down this pathway. I'll never be able to get out of it, right? We just think like, I've only got this degree, or I only have experience doing this. We just make all these decisions of what is or isn't possible without actually even checking any of it. So anyway, so it's chapter 5. It's rebuilding your vision. And it's all about, it takes you through this whole vision/action board activity, vision and action. It's not just making, a couple of cute things and shoving it in your closet and thinking it's going to come out like, a special being in the night. And that's not how it works. The reason why this works is because we spend time setting intentions and having visions and goals for what we really want to do. And I don't just tell people to sit down with, a bulletin board and a magazine. There's a whole pre-prepping where there's a journal activity with a bunch of questions just to kind of help seed our imagination, get things kind of warmed up. And then we go through and we do the activity, it guides them through it. And then at the end, it talks about, okay, now that we've created this awesome thing, what do we do with it? Because it needs to become a living thing. And so it talks about how to visualize. You just spend a couple minutes a day. It tells you kind of how to incorporate it in a very taking over your life kind of a way. Very small, but it's just these little redirections of your time and energy. Instead of waking up and thinking, the world is horrible, my dishwasher's broken, you can wake up and think,
focusing on everything that's wrong instead of all the things that are good.
My dishwasher was broken this week, and I spent the first hour declogging a bunch of crap out of it at 5:30 in the morning, so that because, I don't really want to hand wash every dish, but whatever. Okay, this happens. You do it. But the point I'm making is the first few minutes of your day, or the last few, maybe you're a night person, you just spend a few minutes just kind of looking at it and then visualizing yourself in that. The way I call it is the 7-year fever dream time machine. And we have this total fever dream where we just think about, okay, 7 years in the future, what am I wearing? What am I doing? And this is part of the exercise that, how often do I travel? Who do I hang out with? Like, what color are my sheets? Like all this stuff that you think about to kind of help you make juicy details. And then you think about it and then you take actions. So it just basically sets your head up to think about things that you probably have been spending time subconsciously or consciously telling yourself, or no freaking way it's ever going to happen, and thinking to yourself, oh, this could happen. This could actually, and then you just take little tiny steps, right? If it's a big thing, this could be a 5-year thing. This could be a thing that has 1,000 moves between you and getting it. And it's impossible to make you can make a master plan all you want, but it's not going to work out exactly like that, because anytime we make a move, it interacts with the world, something happens, and then we have to adjust. So all you have to know is the far off thing and your first few little moves. You just make little steps every day, little thoughts, little steps. And next thing you know, opportunities will open up that you hadn't seen. You'll make one move and then you'll meet somebody because of that move that you've made. And then you're talking to them and they give you a cool idea. It's a very evolving and iterative process once you unleash it into the world. But it is about switching your, at least some of your waking hour attention away from dreading all the horrible stuff to imagining what if it all worked out so wonderfully. Why not spend a little time in that space? And then just making little steps each day. So that's one chapter, for example, of of a tool that people can use.
Right. So do you actually have them put together the vision board?
Yes, I have them do it now. People's will look different. This is my latest, and I did it with my bestie and my sister, and then with a few clients. Obviously, different people's can be different. Some people, it's honestly just a few words, and for some people, it's mostly images, and for some people, it's both. It does not. Those kind of details don't matter. What matters is that you've thought through what it is and that you've made something that you can see that is in a physical form, that is not in the closet. It's on your desk. It's by your bed. You spend a few minutes a day, just a few minutes a day that you will see it, that it'll be, not that you're obsessing about it, right? You're doing things in your life, but really just a few minutes a day is plenty. And honestly,
I know some have different beliefs too because some people say, well, it's on my phone or it's on, but sometimes it's a thing of getting away from the electronics. Some people will say it's not the same as if you have it on your phone or this. It should be hanging up or, something you're going to pass by or, like you said, see every day.
I think it's helpful. I actually think that the magazine part is cool because the way I do it, I send people into it with really a whole list and a vision, right? So in some way they're looking for I'm looking for a certain word or a certain image. And I also tell them there's a two-sided of the brain thing happening. One is I'm looking for something. And the other one is I'm totally open to what speaks to me. And as we go through this has happened to me and everyone I've done it with. We go through and we see an image and without understanding why it's jumping out to us, it is. And when that happens, I encourage people to get the image and add it. And you can adjust this anytime, but it's really cool to see what sort of pops out in an unplanned way.
Right.
And mine is a mix of those things too.
Do you ever put dates to them of when you want to see them happen by? Do you ever put dates on them?
I will when I'm doing the visualization. I'll say the other part of the visualizing is being thankful that it's already happened so that you get yourself out of oh God, hoping and I'm never going to get it mode into what a blessed life I'm living. This has happened already. It's just a matter of time. And sometimes I'll say a date. And if I say an amount, I'll say that much or more, because you never know.
That's right. Don't limit yourself.
Yeah. Definitely don't do that. Honestly, everything that I've done, my first vision board that I did, I didn't realize it was because I didn't believe in them some years ago. I just made this fun thing with my daughter when she was littler called Mommy's Future Book. And she had Stella's Future Book. And we wrote like little scribbles and words and drawings, and there were stickers on it. It was really cute. And I put mine up. And this was like a while ago. And I would look at it every night, and I didn't think of it as a vision board per se, but it was all this stuff I wanted to invite into my life or to experience at some point with my family or myself or whatever, career-wise, fun-wise. I did every single thing on that list within about 7 years. And the cool thing is like, if we don't even open the possibility or say it or share it with anyone in the world, it definitely won't happen. But if we open the possibility to it, then at least who knows about timeframes, right? Or exactly how or when or whatever. But it's just being open to possibility is an essential part of being a person, and a fulfilled one.
Do you find it's kind of like going back to your childlike state? Because when you were a child, I mean, we had all these big dreams and visions, but when we got older and responsible, it's like that just kind of went right out the door.
I love that question because absolutely, 100 billion%. We get so, I think of it as an overdeveloped practicality muscle. Like, and adulting smacks it into us, we're just like, oh, well, that's not practical. This would be responsible, and we just all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, over time, we get to a point where just everything runs through that filter of, is this like the most boring, conservative adult thing to do? Which, by the way, being a mature adult's important. And
not saying it's not. I know some people that don't adult, but
it's very important.
Lose the whole entire child thing. Yeah.
But just losing this notion that there are possibilities that we can always learn, that we have a growth mindset. We talk about that in the book too. And that we have this kind of like a beginner's mindset, that it's okay to be crappy at something when you first start, because of course you're crappy, right? Like, how do you ever get good at something without being crappy first? Have to be crappy. I mean, and when I first started playing guitar in my 40s, I was horrible, really bad. Like my teacher, Randy, I don't think he liked our lessons at all. But over time, I got to the point where I can play lots of songs and sing along and sing at people's weddings, sing at people's funerals, be a part of life. And it's so cool. It's a total source of joy for me.
Wow. That is awesome. And like you said, you can't get better at things unless you practice or you do it. I always tell people, if you sit there and say, oh, I can't do that, well, then you're right. You already shot yourself in the foot, because you can do anything.
You've already decided that it's not.
You can do anything you set your mind to. It just takes practice and it takes doing it. It's just like anything else in life. You learned by doing it over and over.
Yes. Practice is the unsexy secret to life. People.
It is, and you find yourself sometimes looking at these kids, it's like, and you start thinking, it's like, when did I get so old and stuffy? Because I used to do that when I was a kid, but now that we're an adult, it's just like, and you start stifling them. And it's like, sometimes I think it wound up stifling creativity and, everything else.
Mm-hmm. It does. Like, why rain on your own parade? Like, isn't there enough crap in this world? Like,
we have enough people to do that for us.
Yeah. The world, I tell my kids, they're teenagers now. I tell them, like, the world is hard enough. Don't be hard on yourself. Good Lord. We have enough trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. We have a few minutes left, Cara. What else would you like to share? Or what do you have coming up on the horizon? Do you do workshops? Do you have stuff coming up for people, or...
Yes. So the book is available on Amazon. It's an audiobook too, if you're a book listener like I am. And I mentioned you have the reflections activity. I just started a week ago this cool new thing called the Burnout Book Club. And it is just a hoot. And so you can sign up if you're a subscriber on the website, then it's free to you, free and exclusive. Actually, those are subscribers. So it's twice a month. The next one is, hold on a second. When is the next one?
And that's on your website, right?
Yes. If they go to carahouser.com, they are welcome to join for any of these. The next one is Wednesday, the 21st at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And so it's a 50-minute, it's like group coaching and support and networking and Burnout Book Club. We get to talk about the things that are burning us out and also talk about the cool things that light us up. So that's just gotten going. It's cool. It's really fun. And I'd love to meet you and see you there. I also do one-on-one and group coaching, and all that stuff's on the website too. And then workshops and keynotes as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure you've had by now from one of these, what is one of your greater success stories? Because that's got to be fulfilling too, when you're able to help somebody else find their way out of that. Could you share one of those with us? Yes.
In fact, the other thing I do, if you subscribe, you'll get my weekly newsletter called Dear Glinda. It's a career column it's called Career Advice and Inspiration for Powerful Souls Like You. Because Dear Glinda was the good witch that told Dorothy she always had the power all the time. And it helps people find that inner power and make use of it. Sometimes we forget about that, or we kind of lose track of it in the adulting world. So I just told a story about it actually just in today's column. So I had a client who, she was just, her confidence was absolutely shattered by a really, really painful career setback. She had her career was it was like an elected role, and she had lost a super contentious reelection battle. It happens, and unfortunately it had gotten, the opposition had this total smear campaign. Just, they really went personal, full of lie. They really took her out. And when I met with her, she was just carrying around this story in her head, which was really, really, we all do it, but just really painful and really not very helpful for her. Like, what if I deserve some of that stuff that they said about me? Like, I'm enraged and I'm hurt, but I have to hide it, but I'm not hiding it very well. I think my career's ruined. How am I going to come back from this? Like, she just had all of these thoughts in her head and this storyline about how this was actually going to be maybe something that wasn't recoverable. So we talked kind of through the details, peeled the onion a few layers back, and really ended up coming up with a bunch of really powerful truths that we were able to put into her narrative of the story, that we're able to weave in, which were honest and powerful and true, which are that she's super passionate about her work. She'd been doing it for 20 years, and she had tons of, she had all of these very measurable outcomes that she could prove that were out there in the world, that she felt really good about and proud of, and were just indicative of her level of professionalism in the field and her level of dedication. And the reality of political things sometimes is that, sometimes you just don't win. And sometimes they get a little bit nasty, and it doesn't necessarily have anything good or bad to do with the policies. That's just the nature of the game. And that actually, one of the coolest things about living life and having setbacks, and they're going to happen. I don't care who you are and what you do. The question is not when it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. And then how are you going to handle it? And having gone through all of this actually equips her so much more beautifully for her next role, because that one's not going to be all fun and roses either. She's going to have to deal with opposition. She's going to have to lead through disagreement. She's going to have to build consensus. She's going to have to do a lot of things that are going to be challenging. And having learned all these lessons that she's learned throughout her career, she's all the more equipped to do it. And as long as she stays focused on the people she serves and the mission that she serves, and really rooted in her value and ability to do it well and to care about it and to make a difference, then she's going to be in a really much better headspace. Before we talked, in her interviews, she was like trying to defend herself, but then she didn't really want to defend herself because it sounded awkward. And so she was just all over the place. It was freaking interviewers out, her energy about it. But then after she was able to reframe for herself, really in a more truthful way, she was able to tell her story in a way that would help describe to them the value that she was going to bring to their organization, how she was going to help them get their initiatives to the finish line, because these are all of, and frankly, even the work that she lost the election for was good work. It just, you know, there was another side of the story, and they won the day on that day. So once she was able to do that, she landed a really awesome job very soon after, because she was rooted back into her value. And so this notion of how to tell your professional story and how to do it in a way that is empowering, that's confidence inspiring, that frankly is honest and gives you credit for the things that you've done in this life, can be very hard to do on your own. So it's nice to have a trusted friend, family member, or coach to work on that with you.
That is beautiful. Well, we are out of time, but Cara, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and sharing that with your audience, with the audience and everything. It's such a beautiful story, and I'm so glad you were here. So thank you for joining us, and we will catch everybody next week.
Thank you.